The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
This is Haymaker Combat Sports. Here, coming straight from the source. Only with the real, they ain't here to dress it up. Sweet science, MMA, you can get it all from us. Trust, 5 stars cause it's live. And through the fight game, we can guide ya. Slick talking, putting them in caution. Passing all the goals cause the audio is awesome. What you waiting for? Spread the word, tell a friend. This the podcast where all of the discussion ends. When they start going strike for strike, this the show that'll tell you what you seen in the fight. And they ain't playing on the mic, this a welcome to the show. Warm it up for the squad, Haymaker of the bros. I'm about wow, you can hear from the pros. It's Haymaker Combat Sports, time to roll.
Welcome to Haymaker Combat Sports, powered by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. I'm your host, EJ Reed, joined by my fellows, Aaron Admire, Steve Johnson. What's up, fellas?
Happy Monday. Here we are again.
Same here.
It is a Monday. This will be going out on a Tuesday. How was y'all's weekend?
Not long enough, man. It flew by.
How about you,
Busy,
Steve?
just busy.
Oh yeah, same here. Back to school. Sent my son off to college for his first years of college. So
Congrats, man.
Oh yeah, appreciate it. And that was first time doing it, but didn't realize it was a whole day process. So that kept me busy for one day, and then back to school, a whole bunch of cuts I had to do. So I've been busy.
Yeah, how was it was in Springfield, right?
Yeah, Springfield, yeah.
How was that trek and experience?
It was pretty cool. I never went to college, but walking through it definitely felt the college vibes. Young men and women, walking. I told my son, I was like, got a lot of options out here. So it was he enjoyed it, first time by himself, and I definitely enjoyed it. Springfield gives me a lot of Columbia vibes.
Springfield's a cool little town. I spend a lot of time there. I like it. It's a big, small town.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What was you doing on that side of the state, Admire?
I got my lake house down there in southern Missouri, and Springfield's about 45 minutes away. It's the closest big city. So when we need some supplies or want to just, if it's raining at the lake and it's rained out, we go over to Springfield. There's a kind of a chain bar restaurant called Big Whiskey there. They got a good brunch. When I did drink, they make their own whiskey and stuff. It's a real good place to get a drink, get some food. They got some cool stuff around there. They got some cool gun shops. The Springfield Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals minor league teams there. A lot of cool shit around there.
Yeah, they got a Big Whiskey around here. It opened up I think a little bit before the pandemic. They got the bottomless mimosas at brunch. It's like the only brunch spot around here that I know off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's a good place to eat, man. I really enjoy their food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice little place to catch the games and whatnot. But yeah, that's what's up, Steve. I know, Emma, I know your youngest is a little bit younger, so you got about 4 or 5 more years before you start possibly moving.
I got kids everywhere though, because my old lady, she's got kids too. So her daughter starts college this year. Her granddaughter starts, kindergarten this year. We got, all ends of the spectrum. My daughter's going into 8th grade. So we're just all over the place, Yeah.
And you got your dad's smoker this past weekend, pellet, right?
Yeah, I'm back in the smoking game, man. It was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. I used to be big into smoking meats and stuff. And 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I traded my big smoker for a flat top grill. I got a flat top grill because for some reason I thought that was a good idea, and I thought I was going to try that, and I've hated it. Like everything just tastes oily, not even greasy, just everything tastes oily on it, and just nothing tastes right. And my dad, he bought a pellet grill a while back, and he just hasn't liked it. He likes his offset smoker better with the wood and the charcoal. So he gave me his pellet grill this weekend, and I started smoking again. Man, I'm back in the game.
I know a lot of people swear by like the Blackstone flat tops, but outside of breakfast and like you could do some hibachi on there. Like what can you do on those besides like breakfast and hibachi?
I've done everything on it. It's really, I like cooking in cast iron skillets in the house, and that's about the equivalent of what I do on the Blackstone is what I would do on a cast iron skillet. Cooking steaks and stuff like that. It's just all about the seasoning, getting it right. I got the Blackstone seasoned right, just all the, got it burned in just right and all that. I don't know, man. It wasn't what I thought it would be. I just seen so many videos. There are people that do some good stuff, but I think it's more about how you cook than the actual grill itself. And I don't know. I think I just expected too much out of it. I'm going to keep it just to have fun with it. But the smoker's way more fun to me. So on Saturday for the fights, I did the jalapeno poppers, the bacon wrap jalapeno cream cheese stuff with brisket, smoked some cream cheese just to get re-familiar with it. I got a pork loin soaking in some brine right now. I got a pork belly in the refrigerator. I got some ribs in the freezer. Like I'm balls to the wall going right back in.
Yeah, with the Blackstone, you said it used to come out oily. I wonder why.
You kind of got to use oil for everything. Otherwise, you kind of burn it or dry it out, because that's kind of what you do with like the rice and just all that. I don't know. It's just different, man. I don't like it.
Yeah, I hadn't used my cast iron in a while. I used to use it a little bit more often, mainly for like my steaks. Like I'll do it on the cast iron and finish it off in the oven, like restaurant style. I don't know if you did steaks on your Blackstone or whatnot.
I did do steaks on the Blackstone, and still it wasn't as good as the cast iron. Like I love cooking in the kitchen on my cast iron. Like I got that perfected, doing my, filet mignon or my ribeyes. Like I got that down. Like I can cook perfect, and I do steaks better in my cast iron than on a charcoal grill or a gas grill. Like just the cast iron's my shit when it comes to steaks.
Yeah, if you want to, like I said, get it more like restaurant style, definitely go cast iron. But I remember you debating whether or not to go charcoal. I guess you decided to do pellet. I guess this your dad just gave it to you.
I had to go with pellet again just because he gave it to me. I'll probably end up getting a small charcoal offset just to have one. I'm gonna build kind of a awning gazebo type out in my backyard. Just having me a little outdoor kitchen with all the grills. I'll just have all the different choices and cook one way or another. Just whatever feels right, whatever I have time for. Basically, that's what it's going to come down to is, what I want to cook and how much time I have to cook it. If I got time to smoke something, and got the time, I'll low and slow. And then if I need to cook something fast, I'll go with the gas.
Yeah, one way to go about it. But that's what's up. You had people over for the fights this past weekend, or?
It was just me and the kids. Had a granddaughter. She was here. She was passed out while we were watching the fights, and that's about it.
Yeah, UFC 319 went down in Chicago, and I had a plan on maybe trying to watch all of the prelims, but my meeting went long, and I got back for like the featured whatever the last fight on the prelims. I went back and looked at some of them, but yeah, I went down in Chicago, and like we talked about in the last show, I guess the days are numbered as far as like these actual pay-per-view goes and paying for it. But overall, it was a fun card, especially the main card, finish after finish after finish. But let's get into these results, fellas. On the early prelim, we had a tough finale. The flyweights, we had Joseph Morales defeating Ali B. Idris by submission triangle. And they're supposed to have the welterweight, but one of the fighters got injured. They're supposed to have the welterweight finale too, but one of the fighters got injured. It rescheduled for a later card. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then in women's flyweight division, we had Karine Silva defeating Leone Barboza by unanimous decision. Lightweight division, we had Drakkar Klose defeating Edson Barbosa by unanimous decision. Did any of y'all get to watch the early prelim?
Yeah, Silva, I mean, she pretty much dominated that fight. I mean, she had the better of the striking, the more strikes. Even though Barboza did have a takedown every round, she didn't really do anything with it, and it's kind of proof that you can get the takedowns and not do shit with it and still not win the fight. A lot of people think, oh, if I get the takedown, I'll get the round, and she didn't. So Silva, she's always fun to watch. She's one of my favorite female fighters, so that was cool. And then that early fight that Morales, he won that fight. He was a huge underdog coming into that. He was a plus 350 underdog on that, and he was supposed to lose it, and he won.
So I saw I went back and watched the finale just because I watched the whole season, so I had to have a payoff. And like you said, Morales was the big underdog. I don't know why, because he's been in the UFC before. He was the only guy on the show that had UFC experience, and he went in there and did what he needed to do. Like I said on the previous show, sometimes when the bright lights turn on, it's a difference between fighting in the apex and people in the crowd. And Alibi, he was going through people during the season. So Morales said that I'm better than him on every aspect of the MMA game, and proved to be true. So we'll see what he does with his second stint. Did any of y'all get to see the Barboza fight?
Watch that one as well. Barboza, I mean, you can kind of see that like time's kind of caught up with him. He's aging a little bit. Close. He was busy, man. He threw a lot of strikes in that, especially the first round. I mean, I think he threw 3 times the amount of strikes as Barboza. Round 2 was probably about the same. I think he threw triple. And then about the last round, Close really kind of slowed down, and Barboza really looked about the same as he did the first 2 rounds. I mean, Barboza really never picked it up and never really did anything different the whole fight. He just kind of stayed at the same pace. He just kind of was on the defense the whole time. He just, I don't know.
So how was Barboza, like 39 or so? Is this it for him? Did he look like he's lost a step?
He did seem like he lost a step. I don't know if this is it for him, but that's 2 in a row for him. He lost to Lerone Murphy before that. I wouldn't say he's going to get cut, but I would say he's going to be like a permanent prelim guy, super gatekeeper status type guy.
Yeah, you see that future for him as well, Steve?
I can say that just off his background, I can say he achieved not legendary status, but formidable opponent.
Legendary, he had a legendary moment.
Oh yeah, it's what I feel about that is I feel like Barboza will always have, like Admar said, gatekeeping status, because I remember it's not for real ducking a fight. He fought the toughest and kind of brings the fight and kind of has a mystique of creating a fight-ending moment, which we haven't seen lately. But I still watch although I did miss this, wasn't on purpose, but I go out my way to watch Barboza when he's on has a fight on.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you need those guys to fill out cards just to have fun fights, even though they may not be in contention. And seems like that's where Barboza is going to settle to finish out his career. But we'll see what happens with him in the future. Moving on to the prelims, the ESPN prelims. Lightweight division, we had Alexander Hernandez defeating Chase Hooper by TKO. Women's strawweight, we had Lupe Godinez defeating Jessica Andrade by unanimous decision. Middleweight division, we had Michal Olajuwon defeating Gerald Meerschaert by TKO in the top. This one off in the middleweight division. We had Lysander Sershakov defeating Eric Nolan by submission. Did y'all, how many of the prelims did you get to check out?
I seen the Hooper Hernandez and Andrade Lupi fight.
You get to check any of it out, Steve?
Same here. I saw the same 2 fights.
Okay. What were your thoughts on Hooper? Because he took his foot off the gas and got finished in the last couple seconds. So
dude, I knew he was going to get knocked out. His striking coach needs to work with him, and you can go back and watch this fight, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Chase Hooper, every time he threw strikes, he would throw a couple strikes, he would bring his hands back up, and then he would drop his hands, and then he would reset. He would drop his hands at like right before he reset. So I knew it was going to happen. He kept dropping his hands, and Hernandez noticed that and timed it just right. And it was like right before the round ended, he was kind of backing up, and he dropped his hands and was going to reset again, and Hernandez popped him. So go back and watch that, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Chase Hooper just kept dropping his hands to reset. So he needs to work on that because it was very obvious.
what are your thoughts on his performance, Steve?
Yeah, I feel like his striking needs to be worked on too. It seems like he has a type of striking to at least go back and forth with you and to try to find a takedown on the way in. But Hernandez never gave him the opportunity for, I guess, that. And Hernandez looked crisper. He looked like he was getting his timing more and finding him throughout the fight. And like Admire said, he caught him slipping, not paying attention. And that I can agree for his striking ability, he definitely needs to work on that because people can pick up patterns and needs to tighten up his striking or at least do some more engagement and try to get some takedowns because, you know, you don't just stand up if you don't have the capabilities to strike with somebody so somebody can take you out like that. So, and like I said, I believe Chase Hopper's game is ground game. And it didn't look like he even tried to establish anything in that. So that was my thoughts on it.
Well, Hooper went on a 5-fight win streak before this, so this is a small bump in the road. So, like you said, he just has to tweak some things in his game, come back, like you said, keep his hands up. Like that's a no bueno, keeping your hands down like that and reassess. And he's still young, but you never. Sometimes all of a sudden you look and a few years gone by and it's time to go. That you can't use youth as an excuse for so long. So we'll see what happens with him. But I didn't get a chance to look at the Andrade Lupi Godina. Is Andrade done? How did she look bad in the fight?
She didn't look good for the first 2 rounds. I mean, she didn't throw a lot of strikes the first 2 rounds. And then, you know, the third round hit and she just kind of went into panic mode. You could tell the third round, she knew she had to like get the finish. She knew she was behind. Like round 1, I think she threw like 15 strikes or something like that. Round 2, it was like maybe 15 or 20. And then round 3 hit and she threw like 60. So like she went balls to the wall round 3. So I don't know why, you know, where was that at round 1 and 2? You know, I'm not sure. I mean, she was just real hesitant round 1 and 2. I mean, you know, of course you want to be hesitant and not get knocked out, but she just didn't seem like herself. You know, I don't know if that's age. I don't know what it is, but, you know, not a great look.
What were your thoughts on her, Steve?
Yeah, from what I remember, Godinez was lighting her up, piecing her up, finding her shots, using footwork. And I guess Andrade was fighting like a fighter looking for that, I don't know, that KO moment or looking for that KO, but it just never came. And like you said, panic mode set in that third round. You see her striking more. But, I mean, that's a that's a rookie mistake, and you figure somebody that has experience, you know, would kind of even out those rounds or make it closer. But she was getting pieced up for rounds 1 and 2.
Yeah, and that's 3 losses in a row for her again. So she lost 3 at one point, 1, 2, and then she just lost 3 again.
So 2-8 in the past 2 years, 2.5 years. So if she finally get cut, am I?
No, I don't. I mean, she's still got a big name, and I mean, I don't know what she's ranked. I mean, I imagine she's still ranked decent, but she's not what she used to be. I mean, you know, I think she's earned gatekeeper status as far as female fighters. But the thing is, she could still be good. She could still pull off a win. I mean, it wasn't, you know, 2 years ago she beat Mackenzie Dern.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's a good win. But besides that, Lauren Murphy, Lemos, I guess, is a good win. I don't know. I mean, she's still ranked number 9 in the flyweight division, but like I said, I guess you could just keep her around to do fun fights. I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
I would say, and I mean, she's achieved championship, but people who are UFC fans, some people are skeptical on that because some people think that was a, you know, fluke. But, you know, for real, she doesn't have any outstanding wins to me other than her win of becoming champion. She's been getting finished lately too. I think if she is lingering around, it's because of she achieved what she's done and probably her name, and probably not to even get up to even the top 5, I don't think, anymore.
I mean, depending on what kind of contract, I think she could get a lot of money from PFL and be in contention for the title. It's not really much for her to do in the UFC. So the money's out there. I wouldn't mind seeing her get a refresh over there and finish her career off like that, because she's just been inconsistent over the past few years. But I don't know. I mean, it depends what her team wants and what she wants for herself. But before we move on to the main card, I know y'all didn't get a chance to see this one, but Sirskayev, he defeated Eric Nolan in the second round, and he was just on the Dana White's looking for a fight on Tuesday. And somebody dropped out on the card. I don't know if it was a full fight or a specific fighter, but they asked him to fight 3 days later, and he said yes. And he got rocked. He almost got finished in that first round, but he rallied and got the submission in the second round. So we've seen this before. I think we've seen a fighter take like a 1-day notice since we started the show, but in these like high risk, high reward situations, do you think it's worth it? Somebody getting like a quick turnaround, especially like a newbie like that. It's not like he's like a veteran. Like I can see a veteran doing it, but like if he would have lost or got embarrassed, this could have derailed his career. So you think that was smart for him to take a fight just coming off of the Contender Series 3 days before? Am I?
I mean, you gotta take your shot, man. I mean, you might never get that chance again. You know, if you pass that up, Dana White might never call you again. You know, I think it was Dan Ige, you know, was the one that did it on the 1-day notice before. And, you know, I think he got a lot of good graces and got a lot of opportunities off that. So I think, you know, this guy, you know, win or lose, he would have, you know, got a lot of favors from the UFC for stepping in. And, you know, it's not like he saved anything, but he, you know, filled in a slot. So he got his name out there, and especially with the win, you know, he came in there as, you know, and just won, you know, like you said, he got rocked. So, I mean, he put on a show.
I mean, getting like, you know, goody two-shoe points with the UFC is good if you win, but like, what if you get fucked up and knocked out and then they don't pay you? And they're like, okay, thanks for stepping
I
in.
mean, again, getting fucked up and knocked out on the big show is better than not ever getting called up.
Hey, I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I can just say, in many ways, depending on the relationship with the UFC, uh, going out and doing things that come up within the company, like days notice, I guess you can put yourself in good graces situationally, depending how they are approached. I would think that he would be in the good graces for doing something like that and saving a fight. Pretty sure probably would have some people have probably talked to the boss, Dana, and probably will. And I think there has been a few occasions. What's the guy who fought? He fought somebody coming in who was hot, and Dana asked him to fight on short notice, and he gave him another chance when he lost. I can't remember the dude.
There's been probably a few, examples of that happening.
Oh yeah, so I'm pretty sure he'll probably get something out of it.
So, you personally, if coming off a Contender Series and you're on a high, and a day later they call you to ask you to fill in, what would you do personally?
Yeah, I mean, I would do it for sure. I mean, because that's what you're working towards. I mean, it's just like anything else. If your dream is to become an MLB player, a football player, and you're in camp playing in the minors or whatever, and you get a call and say, "Hey, we need you tomorrow," you're going to do it no matter what.
Well, I think he won a contract on the show, but I'll get on my thoughts of what I would do in a second. What would you do, Steve?
As far as like what?
As far as like if they ask you to show up on a pay-per-view after you just won Contender Series contract 3 days before or 4 days before, how many ever days before?
It would be depending on the personality of the person. I'd be like, dang, I just went through a whole tourney. Yeah, let me bask the ambience of my, being off a series. And depending on the person, they can either become offended of that or say, hey, maybe this is a way of them asking, for an opportunity, especially if they have the wits to have the itch to be on the big screen. So I'm pretty sure a fighter also dreams about being on the big stage, and he probably agreed to it.
Me personally, I would tell him no. And I wouldn't tell him no, like straight up, because it's too little time. I would make an excuse. I'd be like, I had some undisclosed industries I was going through, and I just powered through it to get through Contenders, but I need some time to heal up just so I won't be on like their shit list, because we know how vindictive Dana White can get sometimes. So I would like make up an excuse like that, because like for my debut UFC fight, I want like my family to be out there. Like 3 days, like it's not giving enough people time to even come out and see the fight. So yeah, I would just make an excuse, be like, hey, I'm a little banged up. And the contract is already guaranteed, so it's not like they could like be like, oh, we're cutting your contract because you won't show up in 3 days notice. Because I think it's kind of bullshit. All the fighters they got in this roster, we talk about how diluted this roster is. Why they have to call him out of all the people? I guess because he probably didn't take any damage. I didn't get to watch the Contender Series fight. Maybe he didn't take any damage or whatnot, and he's like still in shape. So maybe that's why they called him, but I don't know. I don't know if you had a follow up to that, Admire.
No, but I mean, you do make a good point. I mean, that roster's so fat. Why did he get that call? I'm sure there's a million other guys sitting on the couch that could walk right in there and get it.
Yeah, but we know how the UFC machine goes. One person goes down, the next man is up. But yeah, hopefully he'll have a pretty successful UFC career. Like I said, he looked shaky in the first round, but was able to pull it out. But let's move on to the main card, fellas. In the flyweight division, the curtain jerk in this one was Tim Elliott defeating Kai Asakura by submission guillotine. Admire had Tim Elliott, me, and Steve had Kai Asakura. And that first round, Asakura was calculated, but in a good way. He wasn't like very high volume, but when he was landing, you could tell he was hurting Elliott. And Elliott got that late takedown, but it wasn't enough to win him the round. And then that second round, Asakura looked a little bit more hesitant on the feet in fear of that takedown. I still think he was getting the better Elliott on the feet slightly, but Elliott found that entry with the takedown and locked in that guillotine and got the finish. What are your thoughts on this one, Admire?
Yeah, man. I took Elliott on this one, and I was messaging you during this fight, and I said, what was Elliott's plan on this one? Like, just block the punches with his head? Like, he ate so many punches, and I just thought, inevitably he was going to get knocked out. But, he pulled it off. Shout out to him. I just didn't think he was going to pull that off. Wasn't the best looking fight. First round, I said it to you, I almost thought it was an even round just because, Elliott got that takedown towards the end, but I think you're right. Asakura probably did win that first round for sure, just with the striking. I think what was the striking, on that first round? It was something, it actually has it pretty even. It says that Tim Elliott actually had more strikes the first round. It was 24-20.
What about significant strikes, though?
It says Tim Elliott had 16 and Asakura had 11.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't remember it that way, but yeah. Let's see, strikes by target. Yeah, 17 to the head, and it says Elliott landed 18 to the head. Oh man, I don't know. I don't remember it that way. I don't know how accurate the website is because I don't remember it that way, but Asakura, I thought he would have won that by a knockout, just the way that he was just piecing him up. I mean, he was very accurate, throwing really hard hits. He looked good. I'm sure he'll bounce back, and we'll see him, continue to do well. Tim Elliott, I guess you got to continue to see him fight higher ranked opponents. I mean, what was Elliott ranked up there? I think he was like number 10 or 11 or something. So, I mean, you got to give him somebody up there towards higher, Cape, Ursig, Perez.
Yeah, I mean, he's no spring chicken, Elliott. He'll be 39 at the end of the year. He fights out of Kansas City, doesn't he?
Yeah. Or I don't know if he does now, but I know he did. He used to fight out of I think James Krause's gym, yeah. But that's not allowed anymore, I don't believe.
For various reasons. But he's Lee Summit, so yeah, Kansas City, that's what he's still fighting out of. So yeah, I mean, maybe he can make one final push, but that division is pretty stacked, especially front loaded in the top 5. But what are your thoughts on this one, Steve?
Yeah, Tim Elliott. This is the first time I've seen him, so to speak, having an animated fight style, and somewhat playing drunken master a little bit in the ring. It wasn't. I would say a lot of times it wasn't working for his favor, but maybe he was just doing that, looking for a opening, which obviously he did to go for the submission. Based off of how I could say how easy it was for it to control him to get that, I could say that's probably what he was looking for the whole fight. Although Kai Asakura, he was looking like the sharper fighter, I think maybe Tim Elliott, as far as ring intelligence and experience, got him through this fight.
Yeah, sometimes, veteran instincts take over, and looks like that may have gotten the better of Asakura. Wasn't Asakura on a winning streak before this fight? Because he was a pretty big favorite going in this one. I know he lost to Pantoja, but that was for a title, and he had a lot of hype coming from Risen as well. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know who you pair him up with next. Was Asakura ranked coming in there?
Yeah, he was ranked number 15.
Yeah, so yeah, sometimes we say He was a champion over there at Rising. Sometimes you can't get a good gauge on the level of competition on some of these outside organizations. So yeah, I still think you probably could throw him like somebody 12 through 15 to see how he does, and maybe give Tim Elliott somebody 8 through 7-ish to see how he does. But it was a good back and forth fight, entertaining. But let's move on to the next fight, fellas. In your middleweight division, we had MVP Michael Venom Page defeating Jared Cannonier by unanimous decision. All three of us had MVP in this one. And that first round, MVP was doing MVP things. A lot of sizzle, no steak, but landed that straight right to win the round. And I was impressed by his takedown defense as well. And then in that first round, so I'll get to what happened in the third round. Round two, a lot more styling from MVP. Got another knockdown, but it looked more like Cannonier slipped on that one. MVP still looking good with that stand-up. His defense held up again. And Cannonier got that flash takedown, but MVP was able to get up. But round three was a completely different story. He got a little bit too aggressive and tried to go for the finish, and Cannonier got that takedown, and MVP kind of looked like a fish out of water. And Cannonier went for a few submissions, but MVP was a little bit too slippery, fending him off, and was able to survive and get the win. What were your thoughts on this one, Amir?
Man, I don't even know what my thoughts are on this fight. I don't know. I did not like this fight at all. Usually, I love MVP fights. Like, I've been a big MVP hype man. I like Cannonier. I think he's usually a very exciting fighter. He's usually, throwing heavy hands, usually an action fighter. This was just kind of a boring fight for who these guys usually are. Cannonier really didn't want to engage. MVP, his style is that counter striker, bouncing in and out. So you never know what's going to happen. It just depends on his opponent. So it didn't work for me. He got the job done, but it wasn't pretty. I think that Cannonier, if he would have just kind of did in the first round what he did in the third round, it would have worked a lot better. I understand he didn't want to get caught, because we've seen him get caught a couple times in the fight, but he would have just, rushed him and got him to the ground and tried to work him a little more. I think that Cannonier probably would have had a lot better luck. Unfortunately, that's just not the way it went. And I don't know why I didn't dislike this fight. Usually, in Michael Page's previous, companies he's been with, I've always enjoyed watching him do this to other fighters. But for some reason, this just did not go well with me. I don't know.
So you don't think that MVP was a little bit more aggressive? Because like you said, usually he's the counter striker, but I feel like he was the one that led the dance a lot in this one.
He did, but he did, but I don't know, man. It seemed different. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it was my mood. Maybe my edible. I don't know, man. This fight, it just didn't do it for me like it normally does. And I'm always looking forward to his fights. I'm usually talking about his fights. Maybe I got to go back and watch it. I don't know.
Like Kendrick Lamar said, it must have been the edibles. What, Steve? What were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, seems MVP did a good job. It seems that he'd be worrying about the point system, which is, it's in his favor for what we see, because he'll pick his good shots, but also keep the distance, and probably have to not worry about grappling, which he did, but it wasn't any big threat, which I figured Cannonier would be more imposing in the grappling area. But MVP always had takedown defense and did very well against Cannonier, obviously until the third round. And it seems like, if you can get that done in the third round, you would figure, you would have done it earlier to, get ground control and control the round. But like you said, EJ, you let him lead the dance too much until the third round. Obviously had the skill to keep him down there and do damage, and then it figured it was too late. I wish it was more engaging on the feet, like we've seen Cannonier do, and I think we've seen MVP do in his past. He wasn't forced to fight on the feet, so to speak. Like you said, he was leading the dance, and what happened? It ended up leading to the ground too late for Cannonier. So I think it was a justified win, obviously, and Cannonier, I think, has to figure out a plan to be more imposing, because he has the physique, look like he's strong as an ox, and you'd figure he would get that done. Obviously, he did in the third round. Just what was happening those first two, I don't know.
So MVP after the fight, he said welterweight still is probably an option for him, I guess, depending on how he feels, but he's still ranked 15 at welterweight. This was a middleweight fight. What do you see, or what do you think might be next for him, Admire?
I think probably welterweight's where he needs to be, just because we talked about it on the pre-show that, he's up there in age, and, this is like his final push, for a title run, if that's what he wants. I mean, at that age, you kind of have to decide, are you going after the money? You going after the belt? You going after both? If he's going after a belt, he can't do it at middleweight. Up there at the top, we just seen what's at the top of the middleweight waiting for him. He can't go against what's at the top up there. So forget about that. His chance would have to be against somebody in welterweight. He kind of just has to look at what's the easiest path, what's the striking way. So I would recommend, welterweight. It probably has the more striking base, I would think. So, and I think that's probably where the money is. Put him in there, welterweight. And I think at middleweight, a lot of the guys are too big too. I mean, he's a big guy, but I mentioned his legs as well. His legs are real skinny too. A lot of those middleweight guys, if they start kicking on his legs, it's going to slow him down a lot, and he's not going to, his style, he really relies on his movement. So I think middleweight would be better, or welterweight would be better for him.
What do you think, Steve?
I think definitely welterweight would be better for him. She seems like he sizes up. He looks like he's within the middleweight class, although can be bigger guys. I mean, he looked very much enough size for Cannonier. Taller. He was able to throw beginning of those rounds, able to throw him around in reverse position a lot. I think he carries strength into middleweight, but I think he can still redeem some strength after the weight cut in welterweight. I think he ran into a road bump with Ian Gary, but I think he would definitely give top 5 somebody problems if he fights him, because he's not weak, and he's experienced himself and has that unique style bouncing around to where it catches you off guard, and I can see him winning in a lot of those welterweight fights, even in the top 5.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you think about it, Nate Diaz was able to rock Leon Edwards in their fight. You think about MVP. I mean, if he landed that same shot on Leon Edwards, he would have knocked him out.
Yeah, possibly. I think he should probably go back down to welterweight as well. Because we saw, especially the first 2 rounds, he had his takedown defense held up pretty well until that third round, and a bigger guy like Cannonier. So he'd have to deal with some grapplers down there at welterweight, because you still got Kobe in there, you got Usman, you got Shavkat and Bilal. But like, if he skips over a few of those guys, and maybe even if he faces some of those guys, maybe he could hold them off with the takedowns a little bit. But if he were to face like a Buckley, that would probably be a fun one, both of them standing up. If he would go against Leon Edwards, both of them standing up, or Sean Brady's, And then we know the champion is Jack Della Maddalena. So, yeah, I think he would fare better at the welterweight division. But I don't know. He'd have to do some work because he's 15 and he's no spring chicken. So I just think he's a gatekeeper. As fun as his style is at this point in his career, unless like the chips fall perfectly and some fighters aren't able to fight, and he would have string it together like 2 or 3 wins down at welterweight and just be the right guy at the right time. That's his only entry to possibly get a title fight. But yeah, I guess we have to see how the chips fall. But let's move on to the next fight, fellas. Welterweight division, we had Carlos Prates defeating Jeff Neal by KO. And this was a good back and forth round, that first round. Neal did a good job of putting the pressure on Prates, but Prates looked like the bigger fighter. Prates pulled away towards the end of the round, but he didn't rest upon his laurels. With about a second or two, he went for the spinning elbow, landed it flush, and Neal went night-night, which is a recurring theme we'll see when we talk about some fights later on. But what were your thoughts on this one, Admire?
Yeah, this was a good back and forth that first round. I was like, man, it was a pretty even round until about the last, minute. I think Prates started kind of pulling away with it, but yeah, I mean, I think they were pretty even as far as striking went. I mean, they were both landing big shots. I was like, man, Jeff Neal really looks good. A lot better than, some of his previous fights. But yeah, that spinning elbow, man, I was just like, ooh, man. Like, even my old lady was like, damn. Like, it was brutal. That I just can't imagine getting hit with that. And just last second, beautiful. It was awesome.
What are your thoughts on this one, Steve?
Yeah, Jeff Neal, always known him as a tough fighter, to give a sort of a balanced fight, or if he does lose, give a good fight, which he was doing the first round. He has a nice straight, and he's caught Carlos a few times, but second round, all it takes is those downloads, and to do a spinning elbow like that, you have to download somebody. And like Joe Rogan said, if you sometimes don't hear these strikes, but that was like a thud, like he said, a baseball bat when it landed. And, you can definitely tell by the sound how deep the punch or the elbow was. And took him a while to get up from that, which shows how hard that strike was. So Prates showed he's learned and made a comeback after, I think, a loss. His last loss was who did he fight? Was it Ian Gary? His last fight, Carlos Prates.
Yeah, it was Ian Gary. He lost back in April.
Yeah, so
in Kansas City.
Yep. So she sure made up for that this fight, especially doing that against Jeff Neal, who hasn't been defeated like that.
Yeah, Jeff Neal always been a gamer, and sometimes you just get caught slipping at the wheel, and that's what happened with Neal, and it was pretty bad. But looking at it, looks like they haven't updated the UFC rankings yet, but Neal was ranked one ahead of Prates, but I'm sure Prates will go up in the ranks now that he got that devastating KO. But I don't know. What do you see the upside of Prates? He's with the fight nerds, Admire. What's his upside?
Yeah, I mean, fight nerds are cool, man. They got a whole little crew there that does good. I'd like to see him just maybe Colby Covington next. I always throw out Colby Covington every time we have a show just because he's so inactive, and anytime I see somebody get a big win, I just throw his name out there because I want to see him get beat up. Colby's not a horrible fighter, but he's just one of those guys that runs his mouth so much you want to see him fight and get beat up. So that's when I see a big knockout, I want to see it happen to him. So I always throw his name out there.
I mean, Colby, especially when he wins. Kobe Covington fights usually aren't exciting at all. I get what you're saying, want to see him get beat up, but I don't think we've ever seen him just get knocked out. He's gotten TKO, but he's never really gotten knocked out like that. So I don't know, man. I couldn't care less if I saw another Kobe Covington fight at this point, but I get what you're saying. I mean, well, I know the first Usman, that was probably like the most exciting fight I could think recent memory. That was like 6 years ago. Him and the first Usman fight. That was a good back and forth one, but I don't know. I mean, what is Kobe Covington? I know they haven't updated rankings. He's like 6 still somehow, or 9. He's number 9. Yeah, I don't know. Has Prates faced Gilbert Burns yet?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
That may be interesting if that were to happen. I don't know. Who do you see next for Prates, Steve?
Definitely. And what was Jeff Neal rank?
He was 11.
11. So yeah, I definitely say within top 10. Like I said, he had that. And where's Ian Gary at right now? Since he had that win against Prates,
He's pretty high.
He's 6, but they haven't, like I said, they still haven't updated the rankings since this past weekend. But as it stands right now, he's 6.
I would give him anybody in between 10 and 6.
Joaquin Buckley just lost, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Who did he lose to?
It was at Usman, right?
Usman.
It was in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to see 2 young up-and-comers face each other. You like to see it maybe like a veteran fighter give Prates the rub, but you might have to throw those 2 in, even though Buckley's coming off a loss. Yeah, I don't know. I think Gilbert Burns may be a nice little spite for him, but Prates might want somebody even higher than that. But so you might be onto something with the Kobe Covington fight. You know how they could set up Kobe Covington against a Brazilian again, and how the back and forth between that would go. Even though, like I said, I was watching Ultimate Fighter. Kobe Covington was a nice guy on that show, so we could all tell like his fight antics are a show, because he was like well mannered guy on the Tough, because he was a coach on Tough. He wasn't the coach, but he was helping out Chael Sonnen. He was like an assistant coach with Chael Sonnen, and he was a nice guy, well mannered. So, but we know if they put a fight up against a Brazilian, he turn it up to a 20 on the Richter scale. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see who they match up Prates up with next. But let's move on to the co-main event, fellas. In the featherweight division, we had Lerone Murphy defeating Aaron Pico by KO. And round 1, Pico was aggressive and was going to the body of Murphy, but Murphy caught Pico with an elbow and looked to get choked, but Pico survived it. And more pressure from Murphy. No, more pressure was from Pico. He chased Murphy a little bit too much, and Murphy caught Pico with that spinning elbow, and it was good night, Irene. What were your thoughts on this one, Am I?
Another beautiful spinning elbow, man. It was the night of those. I think I don't know if you guys heard it, but I think they said on the first spinning back elbow, the Prates one, I think they said that was only the 9th spinning elbow knockout. And then we had 2 that night. I'm pretty sure they said it was only the 9th one in the UFC history, but we were blessed with 2 that night. Pretty crazy. Aaron Pico looked good while he was in there, just got caught. I mean, it was just kind of one of those things. Nothing you can really do about that, man. I don't know how much you train for a spinning elbow to come out of nowhere. I mean, I don't know if it's even something you could really train that hard for. It was brutal, man. I think this one was the better one of the 2. I mean, this one was worse. It looked really bad. I mean, I gave it the damn fucking yeah. I think they both landed about 10 shots the whole fight on each other. But that was the big one. Pico had a couple takedowns. Excited to see more of him, see what he actually does with his career in the UFC. Murphy, I don't know what they're going to do with him. He's up there. I wish they would have updated the rankings because I think he was like ranked 6th going into this. That should put him, next in a, maybe fighting for a title or a title contender next. I mean, he should be up there. He's, beat a lot of who's who and worked his way up.
Yeah. All three of us picked Prates and all three of us picked Murphy. I was close to picking Pico, but I'm glad I didn't. And yeah, Murphy's undefeated and he remains undefeated. What were your thoughts this one, Steve?
Yeah. Pico looked like he has the skills to, contend with these UFC fighters. He's getting a good back and forth. But like y'all said, man, he was following him too much, and it looked like Ron had more experience to get him on that spinning back elbow. And like you said, lights were out. I think Murphy would be looking at contentionship pretty soon, if not a fight, one more fight before it. But like I said, Pico looked like he was doing a good job, but it looked like he fought him, and it looked like it was levels to it, which Murphy capitalized off of. So I can definitely see him near future fighting for a championship.
So what's up with these guys from PFL and Bellator coming over and not able to start off well out of the blocks, Admire?
Man, I mean, one might say that it's the level of competition. It's kind of the proof, man. The UFC's where it's at. It's the home of the best athletes. But one might say it's, the nerves. They have to come over and, prove that they deserve to be here. So a lot of them might have the nerves. Who's came over and really made a big impression their first fight? Can you think of anybody that's had like a big win their first fight over?
Michael Chandler, off the top of my head.
Who did he beat his first time?
That I can't recall off the top.
Was that the Dan Hooker fight?
I can't recall off the top of my head. It was the Dan Hooker fight. You have a good memory. This is in 2021.
So he had one. What about Eddie Alvarez? Did Eddie Alvarez win his first fight over?
That I don't know off the top of my head.
Eddie Alvarez lost to Donald Cerrone his first fight over. I think Justin
got lucky. That Robbie Lawler.
Ben Askren with when he came over from that controversial bulldog choke.
Yeah.
Oh, Justin Gaethje did win his too. Okay, so I mean, there's a few people that have come over and done good. I was thinking there wasn't a lot that did, but I guess there is quite a few that did.
Jake Shields, I want to say, won his first one coming over.
Who did
Strikeforce?
Now I'm curious. Who did Jake Shields fight on his
first?
He
fought Martin Kampman coming over from Strikeforce.
Oh shit, that's a throwback fight.
So he has a few, and then we could go even further back, go to Pride, and I'm sure some Pride guys probably. But in recent memory, the past 6-7 years, they haven't done too well. I guess. What do you think, Steve? Is it the bright lights, or is it just level competition, or a combination of both, or?
Yeah, and through trial and error, like y'all said, through trial and error, we're just seeing not necessarily the first fights was what, we established these fighters. I'm looking at their whole career till now, and a lot of them didn't pan out to what they were advertised to do, take the UFC by storm. And I think the proof's in the pudding that UFC over these years of people transitioning from different organizations in recent time, I think kind of fell under the radar after a few fights and their losses.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the proof is in the pudding until we see otherwise. I guess we have to say maybe it's a level of competition over there. But Pico's still young. Like Amar said, I like the way he looked. I think he'll fare well. He just got caught, and he's got good boxing and good wrestling, and I like him going to the body. So we'll see who they pair him with next. But going on the Murphy side of things, Steve kind of touched on it earlier. We talked about it on the prior show, how we didn't know what would be next for Volkanovski. It seems like this is a can't miss. Like, when you probably just throw Murphy in there because we don't have like any clear next contenders for Volkanovski?
I think that'd be a good fight, man. I think that Murphy and Volk would be an excellent fight. I think stylistically they match up really well. I think it makes real good sense. I think Murphy being undefeated, it gives a good storyline. I don't think anybody else up there really gives Volkanovski a really true good fight. I know a lot of people would probably complain that it leapfrogs a lot of people, putting Murphy over Ortega, Rodriguez, Diego Lopez, Evlov. But in my heart of hearts, I think that Murphy's the best option for all the reasons, business-wise, matchup-wise, storyline, just everything. I think that's the way to go.
And Steve, you said you might want to see him get like one more fight in between them, but if he got an immediate title shot, how would you feel about that?
I wouldn't mind it at all. I said he had this. I'm pretty sure the organization appreciates these highlight reel knockouts, and that was definitely one of them. I said I wouldn't mind it, but I think he would deserve a plus to throw whole nother equations in the featherweight division. Sick people's all obviously already fought each other, and I think he showed skills enough to throw his name into the hat, so to speak, to spice things up as far as giving Volkanovski a skillful match.
And like Admire mentioned earlier, it's been like 5 or 6 spinning elbow knockouts. We don't see a lot of those too often. We see him hurt people, but not necessarily finishing him. We had 2 back-to-back. Are any of these in contention for a knockout of the year, Admire?
I think the Murphy one, definitely. I even said that the other night to my lady when we were watching. I was like, that's going to be contender for knockout of the year. Like, the first one was good, but it just didn't, have the big wow factor. I think this one did. So it's on the radar for me, for sure.
What do you think, Steve? Any of these contenders knockout of the year?
Definitely. We have to see the rest of the year. And I have to remember a lot of knockouts in, so to speak, in the beginning and the middle of the year. But I could say both of those definitely, and especially on the same card. A lot of these spinning knockouts, elbows are kind of spread out, and these the fight right before you get a knockout in the same card too is like there's so many factors that how that was a rare moment, but definitely.
Yeah, I have to, like you said, I have to go back and think of some of the other knockouts of the year.
Wasn't Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje early in the year?
That was last year, wasn't it?
Was it?
That was 300 where he knocked him out like last second.
Was it? Oh, I don't know. My timeline's all messed up. There was, I think there was one early in the year that we talked about, and it was like, okay, that was knockout of the year already, but I can't remember who it was.
It might have been.
Maybe it was Tapoya and
it might have
Max.
been Taporia. I think even Taporia and Max was last year. I think Taporia's only fought once this year, if I can recall correctly, and that was beating Oliveira, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, my timeline's all messed up.
Yeah, so definitely put this on a short list of knockout of the year, like you said, the Murphy one. But we'll see what they do with him next. I'm sure he's sniffing the title shot in the near future. But let's move on to the main event, fellas. In the middleweight division for the undisputed middleweight title, we had Khamzat Chimaev defeating Dricus du Plessis by unanimous decision. Me and Steve had Chimaev and Admire had du Plessis. And immediately, Chimaev took DDP down and got him in the crucifix. Wasn't landing big shots, but got little pot shots and was just scoring points. And DDP looked like a fish out of water. And in the second round, more of the same. Chimaev controlled the whole round on the ground and made DDP look like a white belt. And that third round, more grappling dominance by Chimaev, got him in that crucifix again, landed bigger shots this time. And again, DDP didn't answer. I thought Chimaev may have gotten him out of there, but DDP survived. And deja vu in that fourth round, Chimaev owning the grappling department. And then in that fifth round, DDP made a late surge to get the finish and went for a few subs, got some strikes in, but it was a little bit too late. And dominant win by Chimaev, and he is now your new undisputed middleweight champion. What were your thoughts on this one, Admire?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot you can really say about this fight. I mean, it was just complete domination. I mean, shout out to DDP for making it last that long and not getting subbed. Longest fight of Chimaev's life. First time he's ever went 5 rounds. So held on that long. Dude is a beast, just straight up animal. I mean, there's a lot of things I'll say today about it. I mean, he's going to be probably the greatest fighter that we're going to see. I mean,
even better than Islam.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I have to think about that, but go on. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things I could say about him as a fighter. I mean, he's just that good. He's probably going to stay undefeated for a really long time. I mean, I'm going to make a big, bold statement. Everybody can disagree with me, but you're going to have to, prove me wrong. I mean, he's probably the best middleweight we've ever seen. I mean, you're going to have to tell me a middleweight that you think could beat him. And I can't. I sat there trying to think of a middleweight that could beat him, and I can't think of any in all of UFC history. He could beat any of them. And, we can circle around and keep talking about this fight, and come back to it. But I have one middleweight fighter that I think would have a chance. I'm not saying that I think could beat him, but I have one middleweight fighter that I think would have a small percentage of a chance.
Who's that?
Yoel Romero.
Why?
Just because he's explosive and, randomly just explodes with like the crazy knee, flying knee or something. That's the only chance somebody would have against Chimaev is, open up a round with a running, flying knee, just catching him, because you're not going to take him down. You're not going to submit him. You're not going to get him in a weird position. Like, you're going to have to catch him completely off guard opening a round. You're not going to control that guy. You're not going to find a wrestler that's going to out-wrestle him. You're not going to find somebody that can control him against the cage. So, I mean, I think Yoel Romero, would be the only person with a very small percentage of a chance to catch him off guard with his unorthodox, crazy moves.
I mean, for some reason, Yoel Romero didn't use his wrestling the last 8 years of his career. So he definitely have to, it'd be defensive wrestling, but he'd have to find a way to stay off the ground. But
right. I'm not even saying like Romero's wrestling could match Chimaev's wrestling. I'm just saying, like, think about when Romero did that knee to Weidman. Like, it would have to be something like that. It would have to be just a random move that just would catch him off guard. Just something nuts. Like, early in, I say early in Romero's career, which was still like in his early 40s, like when he used to just tumble and roll with guys and uses wrestling. That version of Romero is the one that would have a small chance. The Romero now, not really, but like the Romero that would actually wrestle and grapple and roll and toss and all that shit, that's the version. Anybody else, there's no other middleweight that I think can do anything. Like, even Bo Nickel, posted something about, I need to, get back to training or something. Like Bo Nickel couldn't even mess with Chimaev's wrestling right now. Chael Sonnen could not wrestle, in Chael Sonnen's prime, could not mess with Chimaev. John Jones, maybe with his size, could wrestle Chimaev, just because he would have that size advantage. But I can't think of any other wrestler the UFC has ever that could wrestle with this dude and grapple with him. I said, I can't think of a middleweight that could, go up against Chimaev. So we always talk about Anderson Silva being like one of the best fighters ever overall. And, he happened to be a middleweight. Think about what would happen if you took a prime Anderson Silva against Chimaev. Chimaev would grab a hold of him and put him on the ground. Chael Sonnen was able to get a hold of Anderson Silva and put him on the ground. Chimaev would have done the same thing, but like 10 times worse.
Yeah. Before I get into my thoughts, what are your thoughts on this one, Steve?
Yeah, just pure dominancy. Like you said, man, he didn't have an answer. It seems like when he did get up, which is his whole purpose, it was like for a few seconds he got swept right back down. And DDP's not a small middleweight, and it made me think of Chimaev's past fights to where it seemed like people had a chance. Burns early in his career, Kamaru Usman. Although he seemed that he could control a veteran in the game like Kamaru, although Kamaru was trying to almost come back those last rounds, the third round. I'm trying to decide if Chimaev just decided to just have dominant fights on just wrestling and not even mess with the striking because it could possibly derail his plans, and it seems like that's what he chose to do, and especially lately. He'll play with you with the jab and get you to bite, and he'll go straight for the takedown, single leg or I think mostly single legs he was trying to pull off, and likes that hunched over position and where he can hook his leg into the person's knee that's standing up while they're bent over. I seen that that was his favorite position to be in, to control him, so he can just dump them over and just put his chest on their back and make him carry his weight. It seemed like, I guess DDP's been taken down before, but and I had heard conversations on YouTube. It's like, did you bring enough elite wrestlers in there to combat that? Because like y'all said, you look like a fish out of water. I mean, at least some of these fighters that he fought before knew how to get back on their feet way often to give themselves a chance to at least get some strikes in. It seems like he couldn't even do that. And like Admire said, I see Chimaev winning for a long time if he just sticks with the wrestling and not try to play around with the striking, which Chimaev had a KO highlight, but and that was a little bit early in his career. But I'm thinking he's sticking into his guns, and a lot of people call this a boring fight on his behalf. I call it getting the job done, and I would say it's okay to do it in this way because he showed how dominant. I mean, that's, to me as a UFC fan, that was just as much as entertaining to see somebody that's held on higher standards to get controlled like that. Whether just somebody's not a UFC fighter fan and watching, like, man, they're just staying on the ground wrestling. Like, that was amazing that he was controlling DDP like that. And I think he got a bunch of credit for that and put fear in the fighters coming up.
So going back to what you were talking about, Admire, possibly, I mean, if you look at the history of middleweight, you may not be able to find anybody that could beat Chimaev, but I still wouldn't put him as the greatest yet, just because Anderson Silva did it over a long period of time. But if I were to put them head to head, of course, I'd probably pick Chimaev. But also, do you think that I've never been a big fan, not a big fan, but I've never been on the DDP hype train? Don't you think it might be a little bit of a case of DDP just being not that good in the grappling department? Because like Steve talked about earlier, we saw Usman going there and Usman made Chimaev look kind of human.
Yeah, but wasn't that kind of a short notice fight? Or what? There was something different about that fight. I think it was short notice.
Yeah, but Usman is not even a middleweight. He's a welterweight.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Chimaev does a lot of playing around. I think, DDP, DDP's a well-rounded fighter. I mean, he's beat the who's who. He has a lot of submissions on his resume. I mean, he's got 11 submission wins. That's, he has 9 knockout wins, 11 submission wins. So it's not like he's not a submission fighter. Most of his wins comes that way. So DDP is a very well-rounded fighter. And like Steve said, I 100% agree. A lot of people were saying, oh, that was a boring fight. No, that was a great fight. Just seeing somebody that is a great fighter get dominated like that and controlled. And I think that's what Chimaev did on purpose, was just saying, look what I did. I just controlled your champion for 5 rounds straight and didn't let him move. Had him crucifixed for 15 minutes of that fight? Like, that is insane, man. But I think that, to what you were asking with Usman, I think, Usman is a big welterweight. I think that Usman, former champion, and I think Chimaev does play around a lot. I think that he's very confident in what he does. But I don't think that Chimaev is going to be the type that ever gets caught. Like, we've seen Anderson Silva get caught playing around. I think that Chimaev is never going to put himself in a position to get caught like that. So I think if you ran it back and did Chimaev against Usman again, I think it would be a totally different game. I think he's going to continue to develop and be better and better and better. I wouldn't be surprised to continue to see his body change and grow, and maybe even someday see Chimaev maybe even balloon up and go up to, like a light heavyweight. He's 31 years old. He might continue to, go up a little bit.
I agree with you. Like, pound for pound, it'd be hard pressed to find anybody that could mess with Chimaev. But going up some higher weight classes, I don't know if he'd be able to do the same to some of these bigger boys. Not even going all the way up to heavyweight. Like, I don't know if he'd be able to do that to Magomed Ankalaev and some of those grapplers up at light heavyweight. I think it'd be a little bit more competitive. And then going up to heavyweight, you said John Jones, but even if like a Curtis Blades, he wouldn't be able to do that to him, even if he would have tried to go up to heavyweight like a Curtis, or even like a Jalton Almeida. But yeah, but with that being said, like, looking at just that middleweight, like, I don't see anybody who they would put in there with him that it would be competitive. Who do you even see him going up against that middleweight?
Well, that's what's messed up, is like a lot of the middleweights like were tweeting and commenting the other night, like, oh, I got to get back to the drawing board and like retrain on the ground, because every one of them is going to get just dominated, and they're openly admitting it. The UFC's got to be careful with what they do now, because, a lot of people are going to want to see him, as the main card if he's just going to lay on people for 5 minutes. I do want to see that, but a lot of people don't want to see that. Do they want to put, Drive at the forefront of their cards if he's just going to do that to their people? If I was a middleweight fighter, I would be looking, how can I lose weight or how can I gain weight? Because, how do you think it's going to go if Izzy goes against him? Izzy against Chimaev, what happens?
He's going to get taken down.
Yeah. So, Izzy needs to rethink what's he going to do right now. Strickland, what happens to Strickland if he goes against Chimaev? He's going to get the brakes beat off of him. He needs to rethink what he's doing. DDP's coach already came out and said, we don't want a rematch right now because of what just happened. So your whole middleweight stack of guys don't want to face your champion. That's a really weird position to be in. Usually everybody's lining up. The only person that I did see say that they do want to face him is Anthony Hernandez. Anthony Hernandez came out and said, I can get up from this guy. He can't hold me down. I got the stamina. I got the strength. I got the ground skills. That I don't know about. I mean, of course, you know, you want to think you have that confidence, but I mean, I don't know, man.
I think if the UFC goes into thinking that he's just gonna go in and just like I said, he has the highest level of grappling, of course, but he's got stand-up skills too. He knocked out Mershard by KO, and Mershard was just early in that card, and he TKO'd McKee. So it's not like that's just he doesn't have other tools in his toolbox. So I think if like some of the casuals think he's just gonna go there and just do that, I think they're mistaken as far as that goes. But I just like you said, it seems like who was it? Hernandez is the only one that wants to go in there right away. There's a lot of stand-up guys in the middleweight where they would just get dragged to the deep end. You know, I don't want to see Strickland in there. But what about DDP? Where does DDP go from here, Amar?
I mean, DDP really probably shouldn't fight anybody. I mean, he was just the champion. He's fought most of the guys towards the top. He was the champion for a reason. He should probably just focus on that ground game and just, work it and, try to get that rematch, but not right away. Figure out why couldn't he get up, work on that, bring in somebody, from overseas that has that type of ground game that can work with him and maybe try that. It's going to be really hard to get to that level, but you got to try something. Your only other option is to jump weight classes, if you want to be champion, but that's easier said than done.
Who do you think should be next for DDP, or what steps should he take next after this loss, Steve?
It's really hard to say because DDP kind of went through the middleweight before he ran into Chimaev, and so I would say sit back, and I think, of course, he's going to have to get a warm-up fight before going back in there for a championship. But I say he can't go nowhere, especially not a rematch, especially that dominant. And I would say work on his game. I think he keeps his camp in South Africa, but, South Africa doesn't have a strong presence of wrestling probably. And that's probably where he struggled. Who knows if he even flew anybody down there to even get that. So I would say he has to do either some searching for people to work with to come down there, or he'll have to switch camps or share camps.
So Imavov, I'm sure Imavov is ranked number 1, so I'm sure he's going to hold off to try to get the next shot against Chimaev, but we hadn't seen DDP versus Rainer de Ritter. Wouldn't that be a good fight, Amar?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a good one. Especially do that and give it a little bit of time to see how things shake out. I mean, everybody's, if I was any middleweight right now, I would be trying to get a fight booked as soon as possible. That way you can kind of let things shake out and hope in the meantime that, Chimaev gets a fight and hopefully loses. You know what I mean? Just, keep yourself busy, hoping that he gets busy and just let things shake out, because that's really your only chance.
I think Brawlhalla might be a good fight.
Yeah, that might be a good fight for him. I don't know. Like after you get past Imavov, a lot of those guys are fighting each other, and you gotta start getting like Cabral and Rainer de Ritter. Rainer de Ritter just came off that win on that fight night, so yeah, we'll see. It's gonna be interesting, but I don't see Chimaev losing this belt anytime soon. And you talked about him possibly going up. Don't you think that this era of these super fights, quote unquote, is getting a little played out, Amar?
I mean, everybody wants to do the super fights and think that's the quickest way to get paid and all that. But I wasn't even talking about it super fight wise. I just think that, he's, 31. I think that with his size, I think he's 6'2" or 6'3". I think that he has a little bit more time, kind of like John Jones. Once he gets towards the middle 30s, I think that he can put on a little bit more weight, do it the right way. I think that he would be a good size for light heavyweight, especially if he say he fights once or twice a year for the next 3-4 years, he could clean out the middleweight division and then go up to light heavyweight and do, a super fight at that point up there at light heavyweight and, do it the right way.
Yeah, we'll see. He's still young, so he's got a good ways to go. Hopefully we'll see a few title defenses before he thinks about going up, but overall, I thought it was a good night of fights. Like some people were complaining about the main event. I thought it was entertainment. And on the night, all three of us went 4-1 as far as picking the fight. So Admire's still in the lead with 25-17. Steve is 25-20, and I am 24-21. And it's getting close to the end of the year. They're not having a September card, which is interesting. I don't know if we ever seen that besides like the one that got canceled with John Jones. I want to say that was supposed to be in September, but I don't know why they're not having a September pay-per-view. They're going to October, and then I think November. I don't know if there's one in December, so we got to run about 3 cards.
There's an answer for us. DDP's not going to fight Bob or Baralo because they are fighting each other on September 6th.
There you have it. So
I guess DDP could fight the winner of that one. Then we were talking about Lerone Murphy earlier. Looks like Diego Lopez has a fight up there against John Silva. So Lerone Murphy wouldn't be matched against them. I mean, he could, maybe get the winner of that, but I'd still like to see him leapfrog on up against Volk. So
that still may happen, but there are a lot of fight night cards that are happening in September. So if we get some extra time, we may throw on a bonus show, but we're coming close on our 100th episode. So we'll talk behind the scenes. Maybe we do something for that episode. We're on 97 right now. So so stay tuned on news on social media for that. Like I said, we're coming close to the end of the year. Admire's still in the lead. Let's see if he could hold on to that. But that'll do it for us here at Haymaker Combat Sports. Until next time, be safe out there. Later.
Hit the takedown, ground and pound, that was from the top. Heel hooking on one plot, I leave you in the knot. Pound for pound, been the greatest, sitting on the top. Man, I'm laughing at the fools who think they coming for the spot. You ain't